Here at the workbench again. Well, today's is going to be a layout bench. Don't mind that dull roar in the background. That's a heater I have going. She's a bit nipply out here this morning. Okay. This is the back side. Well, the initial plate. It goes right on the intake of the carburetor for that Excelsior Henderson. Now, it's made out of plastic, and this one doesn't have any cracks in it that I see so far, but time and time again on all the videos, everybody's telling me replace these, or you'll be losing your air cleaner alongside of the road somewhere. I checked out a price on, I don't know who it is, K&N. They make a replacement for it, and it's basically made out of aluminum. It takes the place of this plate, just bolts right up against the intake, and then your air cleaner goes over this and bolts through. And so I decided to grab 2 aluminum plates. Now I will patch in a picture in here somewhere of the one from, I forget who it is, K&N, K&R, whoever makes those, whatever, aftermarket air cleaner thing, inject, all whatever, filters. And they wanted like almost 400 bucks for it, and I ain't having that. So I got me 2 pieces of aluminum, only one, a duplicate of this. I got 2 of them just in case I needed some extra. So what I need to do is get the basic layout of this. I'm going to cut it down, but I'm going to throw some of the dimensions on here right now using some of the things I have here, and hopefully this will come out all right. Try to square this up. Once I get this squared up, I get the dimensions right, I'm going to mark this out. All the way out to the end here, and then give her a drag. Now, just got to cut it. Where are we at here? We're a little bit off. Okay, we're going to bring her in. All right, we're there. That's pretty good. We got a pretty good clean run here. That needs to be on the back side. Why did I put that? Well, does it? No, it won't need to be. All right. I'm going to say yes. So here we go again with the old ass backwards, tighten the screw. See what we get. All right, so I got my plate. Cover, cover. All right, yep, we're good. Okay, we should be. Now to find center, I marked this out, circled it. Now to find center on this, I saw people using squares, and there's something with a right angle on it and doing a thing and whatever. What I'm going to do is what I got taught in drafting class, how to find a center on something as soon as I can find the right tool. Aha, magic. There it is. This is a compass. Now, there's probably 100 ways to do this. Not doing exactly what I'm doing, but to find center on something, I'm putting the pivot point on the outside, on the circumference, and then I'm going to go past halfway, past the halfway mark. All right, now I'm going to set that down in there good. Now if you decide to do this and want to do something and you need a little precision, I don't think I'd use a dollar store compass for this. This is an old set. My grandfather was into drafting. You just got to make sure that's set down in there. And this is a decent old compass. Alright. Okay, so there's one on that side. Now, right down in there again on the opposite side, pretty close to it directly, as far 180 degrees out. In other words, directly across at the widest point. To the best of your knowledge. Yeah. Best that you can decipher. Okay. Alright, now eyeballing this, where these two junctions are, you run a straight line across, and again, to the best of my eyesight, right at the intersection. Oh shit, bumped it a little bit. Okay, about 1,000th or so. See that? No. Alright, here we go. Try to get her close to the cleavage as you can. Alright, there's your first line. Now, best is if you do this, where these two lines intersect, where the outer diameter and that straight line that you just did, you should put it right in there. That's your best way to get this 90 out. In other words, perpendicular. Perpendicular? Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. To make your second set. There's one. Oh, excuse me. I mean to slap you in the face. Right in there. Now again, you probably don't want to use a crappy compass, but if you can, if you can get it tightened and think you have the tolerances for it, depends on, you know, what you're running with. We're doing some precise machining, that's one thing. This is just a hole to allow air to come through into the intake. And it's got to match up pretty much to a gasket and then goes to an air cleaner. So it's not like this needs to be, this isn't like cutting a cam or a crankshaft or something. Alright, then again, at the junction of your two lines, now this works for these bigger holes. Yeah, see, we got some Celtic fucking weave marks going on here. Some runes, or whatever. Now, I'm going to try to eyeball this. Yeah. This really needs to be closer for me to eyeball this up real good, but okay, we're going to guess at it. Can you see what I'm doing? Alright, there. This is a center punch, and I got it where those two lines intersect that I just crossed. Now, this is going to be really unholy, but I'll run a pilot hole through there first, because I can't find a bit that I have here to fit this a center drill that would fit in this, the right size shaft to be nice, so it's nice and straight. I'm going to use this in the miller to cut that. I'll get her in the center. You know, I'm going to need a little hole there, and then, well, I'm going to line her up. But those are for the two big ones. So I got my center marks now. Alright, I'm gonna, I don't know, eyeball the, no, I'll set this up on a block, that's what I'll do. And I'll use a transfer punch to get these other holes, these smaller holes. Now, we're at the other workbench. Alright, see what I got here? Look at that. Between this thing swinging, raising up and down, the pivot, and all that, you can about position any hole you want. So, we ready? I didn't realize that this would be, I'm going to run this one and this one, the diagonals. These are going to be the ones that bolt. I can bolt that up to that original plate, so then I'll be able to use the transfer punch to do centers on these other ones. Now, not the big ones. I'm going to tap, just use this, the tip of this on them to get me started for a pilot. And these two are, I'm going to run a little bigger. That way when I can put it on there, I can adjust it in, get it tight with some bolts, and then the other ones will be on cue. That way I'll only have two larger holes that'll be slightly bigger than the original holes. That way I don't have a sloppy ass mess. I mean, maybe. So we're going to go with it and see what happens. Something to lube this with. What I got in hand here is WD-40. And WD-40 ain't really worth a shit as a lubricant if you ask me, but maybe it'll make it stop making noise, huh? Let's see if we have a match, or somewhat of a match, or something. Okay, this, and then this. Ho ho! All right, you see there? You see through the peak hole, and that one right there. Okay, they match. All right, we're good. And probably took too much out of this, but that's all right. That's fine. I just want to use it to get a start. Oops. Yeah, I got to back that out of there. All right, we're on our way. Okay, the first two holes I drilled were these bolts, for these bolts to lock this in tight. All right, so here we go. Pull this back apart. take a look at my work. Well, by damn, they look pretty good. What say you? Bonk, 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 bonk. There we go. Okay, all the smaller holes are drizzled, so I'll take you over to the bike and I'll slap this on there and see if she lines up. Are we ready? This should look like a match. Oh, look at that. Sort of. Well, finally. Hey, we're almost there. One more. So here we go. Okay, so what do you think? Ported and polished. Yeah. Damn near looks professional. I wonder how that happened. Here's the initial, which will go in there and take the place of this. And then I have to cut one for over the top of this. Now I'm going to port this out and match these holes and all that. And I have to cut this down in order to get this, or yes, this, or this out far enough, because I can't just do it flat. It needs to be offset some, because there's interference in there. So having said all that, I'm getting ready here to map this out. Let me see if I can change your position here a little something. What I'll probably do here is I'll match up the corners and whatnot, and I'll probably end up, just to get a rough outline, what I'll end up doing is I'll run the transfer punch down through here. Well, okay, the right transfer punch, this one's too big. Run a transfer punch down through there, center punch those, drill them, tap them, so I can put this on there so I know that it's stuck. It stays there attached to this aluminum plate, and then I'll come around and I'll mark it around the edges to get what I need. I'll cut it, mark it, then I'll be able to remove this and cut it down to size. But when I'm doing this, since I'm doing this on the wrong side, because literally this plate is going to go on the back side of this, I'm going to have to remember to, when I'm doing things, that it's going to have to go like this eventually. But the reason I'm doing it this way to begin with is to get these holes as close to this plate as possible, so I have the least amount of slop and or play and or variability that I can get. So now that I said that, let's see if I can do it. All right, I'll be back. Okay, I got a 13/64 transfer punch. I do not know what that is in metric, but I might have the measurable thing here to tell you in a second. Start? Oh, maybe I didn't have you shut off. I'll figure that out later. Oh, yeah. These. All right, now not too much torque on this. I certainly hope that this air filter has enough ass to it. Yeah, I guess it should. All right, see there, and I'll do this right there, and then I'll do that. And give her a little tighten down, not too terribly tight, but just enough to hold this from sliding around. Well, since I want to get this underway, I'm just going to run by it. Shoot by the hip, shoot from the hip. So I'm going to shape her up a little more. She's getting pretty close. Yes, sir. All right. Time to shut that down and turn this obnoxious thing on. Move the water out of the way. Okay, let's see if we have a match. Boy, I hope so. And how is this to go? Yeah, that was to be, let me see, that's got to go up. So that's got to go like that. And we need this and like that. Okay, so this needs to go like that. All right. What do you think? I may mess with it a little bit yet, but that should get me yeah, a seal, right? Because the gasket's got to go on there, and then here, like this. This I have to attach yet too. But I also have to cut whatever of these ports out of here. I may just go in and cut a big thing out of here, just leave enough for screws to attach. That way this will be all open. Getting there. Back at the bench here, bending my mind. When you think about things in 3 dimensions, and when you have to reverse some things because that's the way they are, it's kind of a double reverse thing, sort of. You got to think about stuff. All right, there's my plate. Showed you the plate. Here's the other plate I made, first original plate. Okay, that's going to go behind here like that. That's going to bolt up to the intake. Bunk. There we go. All right. So now we have this. Now this, the air cleaner, is going to have to go on here. As you see, that's not right. Okay. It's going to go on like that. Okay. That's the way that's got to go. So, in order to get the pattern right, to measure out these holes from one to the other so I can fix this on here, drill it, and screw it fast, attach it to the second plate, I'm going to have to get a pattern up. But before I do that, I want to make sure that everything's in line via the holes right here, which it should be. Everything should be good. When you're doing things by the seat of your pants, you change things up 1,000 times, and rather than run a pattern of on guesswork and whatever, I try to do as much using a pattern of the original to make the holes. Now, this was my original idea to do this, but in order to drop one of these transfer pins down through here, I got a bunch of wiggle room, which I don't really like. All right, so what I'm gonna do, instead of doing that, what I will do is, instead of having these long bolts in here, I'm gonna put shorter ones in. I'm gonna take this face and put it up against here, even though this is going to be around in reverse. This is actually the way this bolts on here, but it's always good to see this as you're going to do it to begin with. But again, like I said, you could just lay it out with, you know, with layout fluid and do it with measurements and micrometers. But when you run shade tree, flying by the seat of your pants, ass backwards, dung heap style, also the reason I do this for pattern, you see what I'm saying? Now this is much closer. Now I can come on the other side and work these holes in from here. Here, there's one, there's one, there's one. Now there are tubes in here, but see the play in these tubes, and watch, they're removable. Matter of fact, when I took this off, it fell right out. This would be where the point would have been to begin with, like down through here. You see how much wiggle room we got? And I don't want to fuck around with that. I mean, I could have put a tighter one in there, yeah, and it probably would have been okay, but if I flip it around, do it on the reverse, and bolt this right against here, now I have fuck all, nothing. I got that hole right against my material, so that'll give me less room for slop. And again, doing this, I mean, yeah, you could measure everything out, but I've tape measures and micrometers and calipers, they give me heartburn. If you lay it smack up against it, smack it right in its face with it, then it ain't got much choice but to do what you know what you want. You should know that it's good, or really close to good. Yeah. Okay, now I'll transfer these centers over. Back once again. Okay, once more, transfer punch. Now, I need to make a hole in this plate, but I'm going to go a little larger because this is going to be the opening that goes into the back of the air cleaner. Larger than the original hole on that small square plate. Okay, let's see if I can do this without boogering shit up. No promises. Out the big boy. Paper kept falling out of it. Alright, after 15 years of pissing around, this is going to need to be, you see that right there? Right Right there, as she swings, she's going to swing up, and she's missing. She clears. So, okay. That's one. There you go. Look at that. There's two. So now all I need to do is put the air, clean the air filter out. Of course, put gaskets on these. And there it is. I think it looks pretty sexy.